All right. All right. It looks like we are live, ladies and gentlemen, on the YouTube front. What I have for you today is exactly, it's not exactly a happy topic, but it's a topic that intrigues me to an extent. And I seen a lot of the live streams that went on yesterday about it and all that. And I was pretty amazed. All right. Before I get going here, I want to make sure that I want to get Nightbot going and see if I could put my link. All right, and hopefully Nightbot gets going, and then we could get this process moving forward. I don't know if there's something that I have to do with Nightbot. Maybe I'll do that right away. I'll get into Nightbot and see what we got. All right. I just want to make sure. Yeah. All right. Nightbot's live. We're good to go. All right. So back to the topic at hand. If you're in the chat, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. But apparently, there's nobody in the chat. It's like, okay. um, so we're just gonna, try these live streams formats and see where we go from here. Um, if you are in the chat, as I've typed link, you could type your link in the chat, and you could see your channel listed, which is really cool. It's one of the cool Nightbot commands that I like a lot of, and it's very handy. So, what we're going to do is we're going to be discussing basically some of what we know about this sad situation involving the missing submersible. And it's heartbreaking, bro. I ain't even gonna lie. But I prepared a little presentation to kind of get things started. Thank you for the hearts. That really means a lot to me. I appreciate it. If you're in the chat, type your link, make yourself known, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Um, but let's get started with this presentation, and I'm gonna go ahead and get it started right away.
Arrived
Um,
on scene.
Let me put the video that I
Yeah.
created from the start. All right, so what we're going to be talking about is the Oceangate missing submersible and kind of like what we know about it. And I'm just going to start off with some slides that I created, just with some facts. Um, First, the Titan is a 5-person research survey submersible vehicle owned and operated by Oceangate. It's a private company that provides submersibles for commercial research, military purposes, according to its website. And that's the vehicle there, as you can see. Let's move forward with this here. Um, yeah. Now, the thing that we'll mention later is how it was constructed. But I'm going to go over some of the facts first, as we can see in this slide. The Titan was an on eight. It was on an 8-day mission conducted by Oceangate Expeditions, with a cost of $250,000 per person. It's designed to carry a maximum of 5 people, usually consisting of a pilot and 4 crew members. Um, Now, this vehicle is capable of diving depths of 13,123,000 feet, 4,000, excuse me, meters, and it travels at 3 knots. So it's very slow. But I mean, how it works is you take your ship and that apparatus or that vehicle out into the ocean, and then you would dive down. So I imagine that you're diving down at 3 knots per se, or like about 3.5 miles an hour or so. Now, continuing on, the unit is 22 feet long and it weighs 23,000 pounds. And just to give you guys kind of like a scope of how much it weighs, like take a medium-sized jetliner, say a Boeing 717, maybe it weighs like a quarter of that, if that. Thanks for being in the chat. I appreciate you guys watching. Give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel so you could chat. I can't really do much with the chat, but be good and be on your best behavior. And I'll continue with the content here. All right, let's see. So we'll give this slide a minute to progress and proceed. And we'll go over some more facts. All right, so here's the problem that we're having right now. The submersible began its 2-hour descent into the wreck on Sunday morning, June 18, 2023. This is the wreck of the Titanic, for those that don't know. It lost contact with Polar Prince, the support ship that transported the vessel to the site 1 hour and 45 minutes into descent, according to officials. So that's where we're at, kind of, but we're beyond that. This morning I heard that there was some noises that were made in 30-minute increments, but that's something that we know. But here's a CNN report that I pulled.
The race is on to find a submersible that vanished while diving on the Titanic shipwreck. 5 people were on board. The U.S. and Canadian Coast Guards have launched an all-out search with planes and ships and buoys equipped with sonar. The ocean at that point is about 13,000 feet deep in that area. And as of yesterday afternoon,
I want to point out that getting that deep into the ocean is kind of tough. I mean, you have, even though going into space has its own challenges, the ocean has its challenges, which are really incredible. We're talking about immense pressure that I can't even imagine having to deal with. I would not go down in any submarine. I'm sorry, but on with this.
Officials estimated the passengers might have had somewhere between 70 and 96 hours worth of air left if the sub is still intact. Now, this was a sightseeing expedition that cost $250,000 a person. The passengers included a British billionaire explorer, a Pakistani businessman, and his son.
Okay.
There are also reports
Looks like we got some information in the chat. Let me go do the chat window up here because I can't see. But thank you, and let me go to. Let me go to my. Okay. Yeah, I can't really read the chat the way it's set up, so I'm gonna have to go into my screen to read the chat. All right. All right. I would have chatted earlier, but I said I had to wait 5 minutes, but I heard the sub version was only available to reach 2,000 feet, and they did no certified checks to make sure that it can reach those depths. Yeah, I can't really read the chat the way it's set up, so I'm sorry about that. Also, the sub is controlled by an Xbox PlayStation controller. Yes, that is true. That is true. It's unbelievable. I think they should have went more the expensive road. But let's see more about
BBC and CTV News in Canada that a famous French diver and Titanic expert was also on the sub. These are some of the last images of the submersible as it began its descent on Sunday morning. The deepest ever underwater rescue was less than 2,000 feet. So this could be an unprecedented rescue if the Coast Guard finds that sub. CNN national correspondent Jason Carroll has the latest on the search from Boston, and I think that context, that comparison.
Wow, that's far. I mean, like they did in recent years a rescue of about 2,000 feet. But here we're looking at about many times more than that. That's
The
crazy.
deepest ever was 2,000. This could be as much as 13,000. What have you learned overnight?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, you can tell that search and rescue crews are dealing with a number of challenges. The Boston Coast Guard basically says that they're searching in an area that's extremely remote. They've reached out to experts in the field of deep sea exploration, and they also realize at this point time is simply just not on their side.
Wow. So continuing on with my slideshow, um, it's not clear exactly what happened to the submersible, why it lost contact, and how close to the Titanic it was when it went missing. Now, on that point, hold the thought. I just want to say, just for a second, I was estimating in my head that they probably made a good ways to it if they didn't get lost or off the side. So in the chat, Devin said that they said all the expenses were spent on the inside capsule, so if everything else fell, the capsule will still survive said depths if everything else fell. And there's a possibility there. I think there's a possibility there. Like I said earlier in the feed, there was a little bit of I think they heard noises like in 30-minute increments. The Coast Guard, not the Coast Guard, but the I guess in Canada or somewhere like that. But yeah, but they that's insanity that they would do it like this. I think looking at the vessel and knowing what I know about it, I think it could have possibly been built better, but I don't know. I don't know about these type of vessels. Like my major thing is aerospace, and I do a little aerospace side project thing like that. But on point 2 on the slide that we're looking at, most major marine operators follow the standards set by ship classification societies, although there is no legal requirement to seek classification for operations. So it was pointed out that they put together this, the ship, per se, the submersible, but they didn't, use the standards of ship classification societies. Therefore, they kind of went with off-the-shelf items, which is interesting. So it's essentially a custom-built vessel that has not had any official design classification. Okay. All right, so we'll let that slide play for a second. Yeah, I'm really ashamed that it wasn't built better, Devin. It definitely could have been built better. They said everything was built off the shelf, and it was. All right, and just for those that don't know, here's a screenshot of what's coming up. Is going to be a screenshot of where um, Newfoundland is, St. John, the tour department location, and the Titanic wreckage. So that's what we're seeing right now. That's come up. Yeah, yeah, this is. I mean, it's just sad. I mean, it could have been better. But I mean, here's my thing: if you are free to do what you want, but you cannot convince me to go down in the sea. I mean, maybe a short distance, but I don't know if I want to do too much more than that. But yeah, this side is where they're kind of the wreckage is at in relation to the place, the launch place. Now, continuing on, what it's made from titanium and filament wound carbon fiber. The submersible is bolted from the outside. Essentially, this means that it cannot be opened from the inside. It takes a team on the surface to unseal the hatch. I mean, why? Why? I mean, I don't understand maritime completely, but I guess it would take a team to open it from the outside. You wouldn't want any possibility of this thing opening from the inside at all, and that's not what you want. So I could kind of understand where they're going with there. It's kind of counterintuitive to me because I mean, they have to let you out of this vehicle. You can't let yourself out of this vehicle. Is basically what's going on there. Continuing on, the propulsion system consisted of 4 electric thrusters that are piloted with a Logitech gaming controller. That, to me, is insanity. Like, why? Like, I guess they wanted to save money on the controls. There must be a way for open up. And Devin says there must be a way to open it up from the inside. They have emergency suits inside that if they run out of oxygen, it will get in the suits, which have heat sources somehow, and it will float you up. I want to research that point a little bit more. I don't know enough about that point to really say, because what I was reading, this is what I was getting is it was they like think about it. There really shouldn't be too much of a way to open it up from the inside. Because say that you're down at 9,000 feet, and then you decide that you want to open it for some reason, and maybe you have a faulty instrument or something like that, and you know, it could be very bad. If whatever happens, they have to prevent the people. This is my thought on it. I'm gonna research it a little bit further for my information, but it doesn't make too much sense to let anybody open this device or this vehicle while it's down in the ocean, if you know what I mean. Now, on another point, Elon Musk's Starlink satellite technology is used by Oceangate Titan during the diving operations. So they're using like a satellite thing, which, wow, they're using the satellite communications to. How does it work? Is there any lag? What's the ping like? That's the kind of stuff that kind of goes through my head about it. Thank you guys for all being here. I appreciate you guys being in the chat and everything like that, and I appreciate you guys. Oh, I do have some messed up Nightbot issues that I will research further. But let's continue on with the presentation. We have quite a bit to go here, and we are like 18 minutes into this, and wow, yeah. Thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. Make sure you subscribe if you're not subscribed. We're gonna look at this ABC report and what they know about the missing Titanic.
Since Sunday, the Coast Guard has coordinated search efforts with the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard, Air National Guard aircraft, and the Polar Prince, which have searched a combined 7,600 square miles, an area larger than the state of Connecticut. These search efforts have focused on both surface, with C-130 aircraft searching by sight and with radar, and subsurface, with P-3 aircraft were able to drop and monitor sonar buoys. To date, those search efforts have not yielded any results.
And I do want to point out that, well, not I want to point out, but I want to point out something that was said in the chat, that there's no actual voice communications either. They were only able to communicate through text. Thank you for that. That's very true. I heard that somewhere too.
Search efforts have continued through last night and today. Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-meter pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability. They have rendezvoused with the vessel Polar Prince and commenced an ROV dive at the last known of the position of the Titan and the approximate position of the Titanic wreck. That operation is currently ongoing.
Wow.
Additionally, a Canadian P-3 aircraft is currently conducting a 6-hour search of the area, and several C-130 aircraft and another P-3 are scheduled to fly this afternoon and this evening.
Okay, I'm having like a lot of Nightbot issues. I'm sorry. Like, I gotta take a look at what Nightbot is doing. I can't do it mid-flight, but I gotta keep it going. So we'll just
vessel John
deal with
Cabot
those
is
later.
scheduled to arrive later this evening, and several other Canadian Coast Guard vessels and the Coast Guard cutter Sycamore are en route. Additionally, the U.S. Coast Guard has the U.S. Navy's SUPSAL, Supervisor of Salvage and Diving Command, is working with U.S. Transportation Command to bring additional assets to the search area. These more capable assets will be staged out of St. John's for further transport to the search area. There are also several private vessels, research vessels with ROV capabilities that are making preparations to join the efforts. So I want to reiterate, this is a very complex search, and the unified team is working around the clock to bring all available
And
assets.
he's right. This is a very complex search. Like, we can't easily ourselves go into the ocean without a lot of equipment. That's the thing that really gets me. But it takes a lot of equipment, and it takes a lot of equipment to even conduct the search.
And expertise to bear as quickly as possible in an effort to solve this very complex problem. We'll continue to provide updates as they become available. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the crew and the families and their loved ones. We will provide unwavering effort as we continue the search. And I think at this time we'll open it up and take a few questions.
Chief,
All right.
Works, sir, if it's tethered to a ship and what it can see, and then could it actually tug or pull something?
So each of the ROVs, so that's kind of a vague question, right? That ROVs have different capability. It's our understanding the current ROV that is deployed at the site now has some limited capability. It has a camera on board, but again, each of those is different. And
They're saying limited capability and a camera on board.
we'll be gathering more information as that operation goes on through the day.
Captain,
how many hours
of
of
NBC News. If your submersibles can find this sub, is there any way to retrieve it and save the people on board?
Yeah, so right now all of our efforts are focused on finding the sub. What I will tell you is we have a group of our nation's best experts in the Unified Command, and if we get to that point, those experts will be looking at what the next course of action is.
All right, I'm just fixing up some Nightbot commands and stuff right now. All right, back to what we're talking about. Okay. Now, some of the underwater noises that were detected by the Canadian P-3 aircraft on Tuesday, June 20th, 2023. However, the U.S. Coast Guard was unable to identify the source of. I didn't want that slide to go back that far. Let me pause it. Kind of doing multiple things at once, so bear with me a second here. Well, the camera in the news feed that I just played, I think they were talking about like the camera on the device that they were going to use to search for the ROV and all that. But I could be wrong. Just take it with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? I'm learning as I go here. And also, the British businessman Hamish Harding, French diver Paul Henry Nolit, and I'm bad with names, so bear with me. And Pakistani billionaire Shahzada Dawood and his son Sain Dawood have all been confirmed to be on board. Fifth person may be Oceangate CEO and founder Stockholm Rush, according to the source. This is terrible. I ain't gonna lie. I really, in my heart of hearts, hope that in the last few hours of this, they can maybe pull through. But realistically, I don't know. Okay, so it's going to go on, let's see, with this other presentation part. Okay. All right, let's go. It wasn't playing. That's the thing. It wasn't playing. Okay, that's what happened. All right. This was one of the initial ones one of the initial Coast Guard I'm sorry for the audio. Like my audio is probably louder than the audio here.
We were notified by the operator of the submersible vessel that it was overdue, and it had 5 persons on board the submersible.
I can't really turn up the audio.
So we're
much.
working very closely at this point to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to locate the submersible and rescue those on board. Our thoughts are with the crew members and the families of those on board the submersible at this time, and we are doing everything that we can do to make sure that we can locate and rescue those on board. So after receiving the call, we reached out to the vessel Polar Prince and began a surface search looking for the submersible. At the same time, we launched a C-130 aircraft to conduct an aerial search, both visual and radar, of the scene. We've subsequently coordinated with the Canadian...
Okay, this is one of the older ones. I do also have to play later on the later Coast Guard, news event regarding this matter. And, man, this is kind of...
Coast Guard and Canadian Armed Forces.
It kind of does. I mean, it's like, wow. So sad.
To deploy additional assets to the scene. The Canadians have had a C-130 aircraft searching as well, in addition to also having a P-8 submarine search aircraft deploy as well, and put sonar buoys in the water in attempt to listen. The location.
Did you guys hear that? They put sonar buoys in the water in an attempt to listen. That's never even thought of that.
Search is approximately 900 miles east of Cape Cod in a water depth of roughly 13,000 feet. It is a remote area and it is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets to make sure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board. Going into this evening, we will continue to fly aircraft and move additional vessels into the area. In this remote part of our search and rescue responsibility, oftentimes we rely on commercial operators to be the first vessels on scene. And so we've been in touch with additional...
So that's a good point. They rely on commercial operators of their vessels to be on scene because they might just by chance happen to be there and be able to assist.
Commercial vessels that are operating in the area, as well as initiating the movement of additional Canadian Coast Guard assets and U.S. Coast Guard surface assets.
Absolutely, David. The sonar buoys is probably the best way they could do would be finding them because they are our ears in the ocean.
Into the area over the course of the next couple of days. Adding to the complexity of this case is the fact that this was a submersible vessel, and so we need to make sure that we're looking both on the surface for the vessel if it had surfaced back to the water, but had somehow lost communications with the vessel, and that's what the aircraft and the surface search vessel is allowing us to do.
And just point out, like as stated earlier in the video, like the communications regarding like the Titan to its mothership, were kind of done through Starlink.
Right now, but we're also having to search in the water column. And we're doing that right now with the use of sonar buoys and sonar on the ship that's out there to listen for any sounds that we can detect in the water column. Over the course of the next couple days, We anticipate adding additional capability to conduct additional search in the water as those commercial assets arrive on scene. Again, our thoughts are with the families and the crew members on board this submersible, and we're working very closely with all U.S. And international partners to provide any capability that we can provide to search for the overdue vessel and rescue the crew members on board. At this point, we'll take questions.
There were reports that the submarine may be trapped in the wreckage of the Titanic. Is this even possible? And if that were the case, how much oxygen would these people?
I can't really hear what the questions are. But
in
he'll
terms
make them out.
of locating the overdue submersible, we have to make sure that we're looking on both the surface using aerial and surface vessels, but then expanding into underwater search as well. Right now, our capability is limited to sonar buoys and listening for sounds, but we're working very hard to increase the capability. We understand from the operator of the vessel that the vessel was designed with a 96-hour sustainment capability.
So I don't think we have much of that 96 hours left. I mean, it breaks my heart to even want to even try and count that. We don't have time.
If there was an emergency on board. And so we're using that time, making the best use of every moment of that time to locate the vessel.
Sir, can you talk about who was the Danish guarding the British explorer and confirm that he's on board from family?
At this point, I'm not in a position to confirm the identity of anybody on board the vessel. Out of respect for the families, we're going through the notification process, and more updates will be forthcoming.
Yeah, exactly, Devin. There's not much time left. Less than 24 hours. I was in my head, I was looking at 10.
That's absolutely part of the overall planning for this search case. Right now we're focused on locating the vessel, but at the same time, if we find this vessel in the water, then we will have to effect some sort of rescue or coordinating, reaching out to different partners within the U.S. Navy, within the Canadian Armed Forces, and within private industry to understand what underwater rescue capability might be available.
So they have to really network with different entities to get the best possible capabilities in terms of being able to execute underwater recovery, rescue missions, and things like that. Because, as stated earlier in the stream, like, it was easier for us to get into space, even though it had its challenges, than to go deep into the sea.
So at this moment, we're focused on the search and understanding the capabilities of the vessels that are deploying to the scene. So the sonar capabilities within the sonar buoys and within the hull of the commercial vessel that is out there operating on site, those aren't Coast Guard sonars. They are capable of listening to a depth of 13,000 feet, as I understand it.
Wow, did you guys get that? Those sonars are capable of listening down to a depth of 13,000 feet and possibly beyond. That's insanity. That deep down in the ocean, the pressure is immense. Wow. All right, and also too,
So
if you're not already
in
subscribe to the channel. I'll do more of these live streams as I feel like it or whatever. Or if
terms
you guys,
of the square mileage of the search, I don't have that number right at this moment, but it includes both a surface area that we're looking at and a subsurface area. And so we'll get you the exact number for the square mileage of the search. In terms of the hours, we understood that that was 96 hours of rescue or emergency capability from the operator. And so we anticipate that there's somewhere between 70 to the full 96 hours available at this point.
and to that point, we don't really know how much of this vessel is left, what systems may be available or not be available, because unfortunately it was real limited. So, you know.
So it's certainly the purpose of the submarine was to, as I understand, the purpose of the submersible was to provide opportunity to visit the wreck site and explore the wreck site. So that's a possibility. Again, right now our focus is getting on as much capability into the area as we can and understanding that full capability of those assets that are being deployed. Our aerial assets that are being deployed have the capability to do both visual and radar searches, and the Canadians' asset had the ability to drop sonar buoys and listen, and so we're using all that information to improve our search capability.
So can you imagine how much information they are using to gather information about this missing vessel? I mean, everything from sonars, satellites, this, that, third, all the technology is like kind of working in concert together to kind of get a search going as to where this vessel is.
So we're working through that right now, but what we're really focused on at the moment is really locating the vessel, which could either be in the surface or subsurface. And so we're bringing in technical expertise to understand both the dynamics of underwater search and underwater rescue operations.
And just remember, like, unlike air, in the water, things move a little bit slower. And you get the density involved, things move a little bit more slower down there too.
So as search and rescue professionals, you know, we work very, very hard, and our crews take this personally. Our first thoughts are with the crew members and the families of those on board. And so we want to make sure that we have done absolutely everything that we can do to locate their family members and bring them home safe. And so they're first and foremost in our thoughts every moment of this search operation.
Hey, we got a little bit more to go. If you guys are out there, you know what I mean, like share the stream with a friend or something like that. Sharing is caring, you know.
I don't have any details on how often folks visit the wreck site there at Titanic, nor any specific comments on the dangers involved.
Honestly, I didn't know that people were visiting the Titanic. And not for the sake that I wasn't really looking for the information. It just, I never researched it, you know. And this brings highlights the fact that people are actually doing expeditions.
Certainly, every time ships go to sea, they encounter hazards and dangers, and so having properly prepared vessels, properly prepared crew members, and making sure that you practice emergency procedures, good practical advice for anybody that goes to sea. So at this point, I'm not going to discuss any information about the families and communications with the families. And so we'll provide that with future updates.
Wow. It's the questions that they ask at some of these things that are like, like intrusive.
So the Coast Guard has two C-130 aircraft. In addition to the command team that's working here, we have two C-130 aircraft deployed. The Canadians have a C-130 aircraft and a P-8 aircraft. We also have access to and will launch this evening a C-130 aircraft from the New York National Guard to make sure that
they're launching a lot. They have launched a lot of C-130s into search effort. C-130s are high wing, short, stubby, propeller-driven turboprop aircraft for like Army type military ops.
Have air assets, sufficient air assets up there. On the surface, we have the commercial operator that's been on site, and we're bringing additional surface search assets into play, which will also bring in some subsurface search capability. Last question, please.
Oh, last question.
I understand from the operator that there was one pilot or submersible commander operator on board, and that there were 4 mission specialists on board is the term that the operator uses for them. So five total. You have to ask the operator what that means. What we're focused on is finding those 5 people. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, and then also we're going to look at this other Coast Guard thing, but I have to switch screens in order to do it. Bear with me a second here. I just got to figure out which screen it was. It's close. All right, and this is the other one from like 20 hours ago or so that I wanted to look at as well. Let's see if I can get
search effort, which requires multiple agencies with subject matter expertise and specialized equipment. While the U.S. Coast Guard has assumed the role of search and rescue mission
This is off
coordinator,
LiveTube. Shout out
we
to
do not
LiveTube.
have all of the necessary expertise and equipment required in a search of this nature. The Unified Command brings that expertise and additional capability together to maximize effort in solving this very complex problem.
Once again, this is the update from like say about 20 hours or so ago.
As a recap, on Sunday, the Coordination Command Center in Boston received a report from the Canadian expedition vessel Polar Prince of an overdue 21-foot submarine Titan with 5 people on board. The Titan was attempting to dive on the wreck of the Titanic approximately 900 miles east of Cape Cod and 400 miles south of St. John's, Newfoundland. Approximately 1 hour and 45 minutes into the scheduled dive, the Polar Prince lost all communication with the Titan. The Polar Prince conducted an initial search and then requested Coast Guard assistance. The U.S. Coast Guard in Boston assumed the responsibility of search and rescue mission coordinator and immediately launched search assets.
So you see, they immediately went into action as soon as they were notified. I really appreciate that.
Since Sunday, the Coast Guard has coordinated search efforts with the U.S. and Canadian Coast Guard, Air National Guard aircraft, and the Polar Prince, which has searched a combined 7,600 square miles, an area larger than the state of Connecticut. These search efforts have focused on both surface, with C-130 aircraft searching by sight and with radar, and subsurface, with P-3 aircraft were able to drop and monitor sonar buoys. To date, those search efforts have not yielded any results. Search efforts have continued through last night and today. Today, the vessel Deep Energy, a 194-meter pipe-laying vessel, arrived on scene with underwater ROV capability. They have rendezvoused with the vessel Polar Prince and commenced an ROV dive at the last known of the position of the Titan and the approximate position of the Titanic wreck. That operation is currently ongoing. Additionally, a Canadian P-3 aircraft is currently conducting a 6-hour search of the area, and several C-130 aircraft and another P-3 are scheduled to fly this afternoon and this evening. The Canadian Coast Guard cutter, or vessel, John Cabot, is scheduled to arrive later this evening, and several other Canadian Coast Guard vessels and the Coast Guard cutter Sycamore are
just to point out, it's a multinational effort. Those around us are lending a hand, which is really admirable.
Are en route. Additionally, the U.S. Coast Guard has the U.S. Navy's SUPSAL, Supervisor of Salvage and Diving Command, is working with U.S. Transportation Command to bring additional assets to the search area. These more capable assets will be staged at a St. John's for further transport to the search area. There are also several private vessels, research vessels with ROV capabilities that are making preparations to join the efforts. So I want to reiterate, this is a very complex search, and the unified team is working around the clock to bring all available assets and expertise to bear as quickly as possible in an effort to solve this very complex problem. We'll continue to provide updates as they become available. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with the crew and the families and their loved ones. We will provide unwavering effort as we continue the search. And I think at this time we'll open it up and take a few questions.
Okay, so basically gave the brief. It's kind of a lot of what we heard before, and you know, if you guys have any more comments and questions in the chat, I could see the chat. I could work on that. I could work with that. But we'll just continue to review some more of this.
So each of the ROVs, so that's kind of a vague question, right? ROVs have different capability. It's our understanding the current ROV that is deployed at the site now has some limited capability. It has a camera on board, but again, each of those is different, and we'll be gathering more information as that operation goes on through the day.
Captain, it's Tom Costello with NBC News. If your submersibles can find this sub, is there any way to retrieve it and save the people on board?
A little bit.
Yeah, so right now, all of our efforts are focused on finding the sub. What I will tell you is we have a group of our nation's best experts in the Unified Command, and if we get to that point, those experts will be looking at what the next course of action is.
Captain, how many hours of oxygen are left that you know of, or that you can estimate right now on the submersible? And does it have to be approved or regulated?
Sure. So first of all, it's an estimate, right? Because we know from the data we were using as a starting point was 96 hours. We know at this point we're approximately about 41 hours.
Thank you guys for being part of it and being a part of the chat and everything else and watching the video. And just if you're not already subscribed to the channel. I got some projects that I got to do that I hope to get to.
Yes.
And does it have to be approved or regulated? Does submersible, does it go through anything that you know of?
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact technical piece of that. We know there's about 40 hours of breathable air left based on that initial report. Again, that was just the initial report based on 96 hours from when the vessel.
Captain, even with that amount of time that's left, let's say 41 hours or so, if you were to find the submersible at this moment, would that give you enough time to save these 5 people on board?
Yeah, So I don't know the answer to that question. What I will tell you is we will do everything in our power to effect a rescue. Again, it's going to depend on if the ROV finds something. It's going to depend on what they find, what needs to be, what steps need to be taken next, and really that is for the experts within the Unified Command to take a look at and then decide what the best course of action is.
BBC News.
It seems to have taken the mothership vessel.
Do that.
8 hours contact you on Sunday.
All right, so
With the sub.
I'm gonna hold off on that for a second, but I also want to go to my Twitter feed, and I just want to see if there's any updates real quick that I should be aware of during the course of making this video. Oops, I gotta sign in. Let me take the window over here and sign in. All right. Sorry about the dark screen, ladies and gentlemen. I just had to quickly to see what's going on, and just take a quick look at, like see if there's any updates that I should be aware of before I proceed. Let's see. And let's see. So I'm not seeing anything immediately on my feed right now. So I'm going to go back to this video and we're going to proceed.
Is that a cause for concern?
Listen, right now, our effort and our focus is on searching with what we know. As soon as we received the report on Sunday evening, we immediately launched search efforts. We flew assets that evening, and we've continued constant surface and air asset searches since that point.
You mentioned that the search operation is very complicated. What are the biggest challenges you face?
Well, it's a...
Just to let you know, like this, they have way less than 40 hours as seen on the screen there, and looking at the bar. This is from like over 20 hours ago. I'm just replaying it.
This is a complex search, and it's complex for a variety of reasons. You're talking about a search area that's 900 miles east of Cape Cod, 400 miles south of St. John's. So logistically speaking, it's hard to bring assets to bear. It takes time. It takes coordination. And then we're dealing with, two pieces of, you're dealing with a surface search and a subsurface search. And frankly, that makes it an incredibly complex operation.
Captain, will the U.S. Navy or the Canadian Navy be able to...
He pointed out that you're doing like a like kind of a two-zone search. Surface and kind of below the surface. That's a complicated type of search that, I mean, it's going to take a lot of resources, a lot of manpower, a lot of equipment. But we must know. We must find out what happened to those two of us, Like, if anything.
To get salvage equipment on time before the air runs out.
Obviously, getting salvage equipment on scene is a top priority. Unified Command is working through that to prioritize what equipment we can get there. There are ongoing operations right now via the U.S. Navy and Transcom to get equipment staged in St. John's and to get it on scene. I can't give you an exact timeline of when that's going to happen. But what I can tell you is there is a full court press effort to get equipment on scene as quickly as we can.
Is that equipment already on the East Coast, though, or is it coming from the Pacific, for example?
No, so some of the equipment that's coming is coming from the East Coast, but again, we're talking about very heavy equipment. It's a complicated transport operation, but the best professionals in the world are working it, and that's U.S. Transcom.
When it comes to the equipment, can you go into more detail? Do you have a curve 21 that's being shipped up to that location? And since you don't...
Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of like browse my phone for updates as
so like I said, there are several.
Just want to see if there's anything new that may have came up, like while I was looking around, and sometimes I forget the mic is right there. Silly me, but that's all right. Yeah, they were saying 14 hours ago that they heard banging from area internal comms reveal. See, 10 hours ago, missing submersible. They're going to give live updates. Let's see, I saw that another guy went live about it too. But I'm looking to see if there's any... Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at on it. So let me proceed with this.
Civilian ships that have offered services heading their way. There are additional Coast Guard cutters. We hope to have a Canadian Coast Guard cutter on scene this evening. We hope that they may be able to assume on-scene commander. Polar Prince has been doing a great job with those duties, but if we could take some of that from them, that would be good. But your question about specific equipment, I'm not going to get into talking about specific equipment. Frankly, I'm not an expert on what that equipment is, but again, I can tell you we have experts in the Unified Command that are going through that, prioritizing what we need, and then how we get it on scene.
Can you tell us about the personnel from Boston? How many people from here are out there, and also where equipment?
From Boston specifically. Yeah, so Boston, where Boston plays a role is the command center, the rescue and coordination center is here in Boston. the aircraft that are coming in are coming from different locations, but the command structure is being worked out of Boston. And I think we have time for 2 more questions.
Okay, so that's interesting. They say the command center is in Boston. Aircraft and resources fly from all over to help out.
It's just how unique is the Coast Guard ever has a
Well, I don't want to speak about if the Coast Guard is ever. I would tell you it's a unique operation. It's a challenging operation, but right now we're focused on putting everything we can at it and searching as hard as we can and getting assets out there as quickly as we can.
And so these private companies, the other assets that are rushing to this area, what sort of assets do they have? Do they have ROVs, resource, technology, OTV?
Yeah, so there are some additional assets with ROVs. There is one asset that is working to get on scene with a decompression chamber. So those are all pieces that are coming together, and we're working those logistical challenges to get them there. And I think we'll.
He just said a word that stuck out to me: the decompression chamber. Oh my! They're going to need a decompression chamber if it comes to that. Can you believe it?
We'll take one more. Well, I can't tell you exactly what it would look like. I would tell you that, we are out there, we're searching. We wouldn't be doing this. We wouldn't be searching and putting all effort out there. I think that, if the sub is located, that's a question that then the experts need to look at what is the best course of action for recovering the sub. But I think it's going to depend on that particular situation and if we encounter that.
Sir, is it true that the British offered assistance and they were told we don't need your assistance at this point?
No, I'm not aware of that. Again, what I would tell you though is that the Unified Command is working through prioritizing. We know that there's equipment out there that can be brought to the scene. The Unified Command is working through prioritizing what equipment.
So at this point, and then there's not that many hours left as shown on that screen there. This is from a previous news conference that occurred on the 20th of June, which would be of yesterday, according to today. And
equipment we need, and then how we get it there.
And the French are also responding to.
I'm just waiting for updates.
Yes, that's my understanding. Correct. And I think we're going to wrap it there. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys coming out today. Include this portion of the brief on there. I can stay behind just to take some additional stuff that maybe wasn't answered. We can try to get some information back to you kind of a little later.
Clarify the question about the other nuclear base in Boston.
Yeah.
So are they not out there? Are they just working here?
Right. So the Rescue Coordination Center that he's talking about specifically, that's based in Boston. So the personnel that are working in the command and control environment, as far as building a lot of the search and rescue plans, sending out the information, coordinating those pieces, are here. The people affecting the mission, so the pilots, the air crews, all of the ships, those are based out of different areas. So our pilots, air crews are out of Elizabeth City, North Carolina. The Coast Guard cutter Sycamore, I believe, is out.
So you see the logistics involved in conducting a search like this. It's very intense. It's very
Newport,
involved.
Rhode Island, but they were operating already in the Arctic. So there are a number of people that are here working in that staff element, but are not physically located out in the search area, if that makes sense.
Command and control.
It is, yes.
Does Oceangate have another submersible that they could try to send down there?
I don't know.
It sounds like, for the most part, the staging area is moving to St. John's.
So I believe, yeah, a lot of it into St. John, Newfoundland, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That's so. Our aircraft, the C-130 aircraft, they're based out of there as well. So I know there is a number of pieces going out there. Logistically, it's easier as opposed to from here.
Talk about Transcom organizing the different.
You got to think they got to get the equipment like kind of where the work is at, if you will. Make sure that you get the equipment where it needs to be, so that things could get done in a timely manner, so that resources are used in an effective manner, and that we get out to that crew.
I asked Transcom, but they didn't know what you guys. Okay. So can you give a little bit more clarity on what kind of assets you have put in the water? I specifically asked about the Curve 41.
Yeah.
Is there one on the way?
I don't know. I don't know an answer to that. So I know a lot of those questions were unanswered on there, and it's a lot of it's because we're not the right agency to be asking that. I know as the command we should be to be able to give the answer to you, but we want you guys to hear it from the subject matter experts. So that's our next plan. Is what we want to do is give an opportunity for you all to get all of the subject matter experts we can into one location to kind of get those questions answered. To give you kind of the best thing we can do.
You anticipate in those 40 hours when that becomes a recovery mission, if you choose to do a recovery mission? Is that your plan? When those 40 hours are up that you gave for the estimate, is that the moment you shift from a search and rescue to a recovery operation, if you choose to do a recovery operation, given the difficulties?
I think it really depends on a number of factors. So anything that could change between now and then, as far as information response, things like that could change that. So it's not a hard and fast, timer's up, time to transition.
Okay, so he said regarding that time that he mentioned, it's not really like set in stone, kind of, from what I understand, because depending upon information that comes and goes, stuff could change, different things could happen, and things like that. So with all that they have on board, that time limit, if it is a limit, may even be able to be extended.
There's a lot of factors that go into it that could extend something like that.
Excuse me, what role does the amount of oxygen play in one of those factors? And with 40 hours of oxygen left, when would you then transition from a search and rescue to a search and recovery?
I don't know an answer to that. That's definitely outside, but we can try to get back to as we transition through that phase. We'll have better answers for that.
Is there information about the conditions out there? Like what exactly are facing?
So the weather-wise, yep. So actually, I have, I believe the weather on scene today was 5 to 6 foot seas.
You're at 5 to 6 foot seas.
So wave height 5 to 6 feet. I believe it was 15 knot winds. Visibility was very foggy yesterday.
All right, I see you guys are pretty much getting out of here too.
Increasing today, and they were
I think I'm going to wrap
expecting
this
much better
up.
conditions,
I've
from
had
an
fun
aerial
doing
search
this. It was. I'm going to come on this channel and I want to try to live stream at least an hour. I mean, do you guys want me to stay on, or you want me to? I do kind of want to get off. Hold on. I do kind of want. Sorry about that. I don't like a lot of things talking at once. Like I have it in my ear. I got the little things. But tell me what you guys want. Do you want me to? Do you guys want me to stay or go? But more than likely, I'm not equipped to really stay right now. But I will play a little bit more of this and think about it, and then we'll go from there.
It's about average out there, right?
How long would it take a typical Coast Guard vessel from the U.S., or for that matter from Newfoundland, to get on site if they're running at maximum speed?
That depends on the cutter itself or the ship itself, because they all have different speeds.
Yeah. But you have an average.
So he's asking about what it's going to take in terms of time for the different cutters or ships to get to the scene. It could vary. You got different ships, different motors, different gearing, different factors, different weather, different locations, and you have all kinds of different things that affect the ability of the ship to get to sea, plus the hours, the manpower included. So there's no set answer on that. But, just keep in mind, we're dealing with the ocean and the water, not the air.
Just so we have a feel for how long it would take to get there?
Well, depending
we
on
are
where
dealing
we're
with the
coming
air,
from,
too.
It could be a matter of, 2 days up to 4 to 5 days. It just depends on where they would be deploying from.
2 days from Newfoundland, for example?
I don't know. We don't have any ships up there, so I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. The Canadian, we're trying to find out more information on the Canadian vessels that are assisting on there, sort of what their capability and speeds are. I just don't have an answer for you on that right now.
Does the Coast Guard have a line on a piece of equipment that is capable of going down to the Titanic?
The Coast Guard specifically, no. This type of a salvage operation in our expertise as an organization is...
No, in terms of private companies, if you reach...
So that's all part of the conversation through the Fight Command to find out what capabilities are out there and explore all avenues that they can.
You're looking at that now.
The Coast Guard is usually pretty quick about releasing videos and photos and things like that from their operations. Is there a specific reason why you haven't from this operation?
We just haven't received any yet at this point.
And you don't
We do expect to get some. Like I said, we do have some graphics that we're trying to look to send out this afternoon, as well as we've reached out to the aircraft crews to get footage from them. Now I know with the ROVs that are on scene today, like I said, there just hasn't been any before, so are requesting out there to try and see what we can get to go through that and try to make that available to you all.
Was discovered on the bottom of the ocean right now. Right now, there are no assets on scene that could go retrieve it. Is that correct?
I don't have an answer to that.
Does not have any assets that could get it right now, correct?
The Coast Guard assets itself, no, we do not have any Coast Guard cutters on scene.
All right, so
no, so the research
looks
vessels,
like
I just don't know what the capabilities are at that.
Pretty unrealistic that it has.
yeah, I think we're pretty good. I think we've like covered what we can cover about this at this time for what it is.
Out to experts in the field of deep sea.
Let me see if we can finish this presentation a little bit, so we can see where we're at. But that's where we are. You can contact me, info@TechTinkTronics.net. Site is TechTinkTronics.net. I don't have much to do or say there. But if anything, thanks for watching. Today was a historical first. Today was like the opportunity to actually live stream and actually have some people come in and actually enjoy the live stream with me, for what that's worth. And that's pretty cool. But I admit it got kind of dead at the end because I was just listening in and trying to get information myself. But thanks for